Hey, what's up, everybody? This is C3 Films. I'm Chris, and this is.
Cheryl.
And today we're going to be talking about a movie called Everything Before Us.
Cool. I decided to pick this film to talk about because I got a little sneak peek of it before we watched it together, and a little bit of background. The creators of this movie is called Wong Productions, and I don't know if you know too much about them, but they're basically a bunch of guys who went to San Diego, University of San
Mhm.
Diego,
Mhm.
or University of California, San Diego,
Okay.
and they kind of founded their production company and kind of took off on YouTube back when YouTube was brand new. And
Nice.
what kind of like helped them take off is a short film about, lo and behold, relationships, interracial relationships, particularly with Asians, which, I mean, they are Asian, so
Mhm.
I think that's why I kind of enjoy what they bring to the table in terms of the culture of the film world. So,
Yeah, it sounds like they really like delving into very light topics. Like, jeez.
so,
And
oh yeah, go ahead.
oh yeah, and just so everybody is aware, we are going to be talking spoilers for the film. So if you haven't watched it, go check it out. It's free on YouTube. It's in 5 parts, and there's a 6 short film that accompanies the piece that you can watch after you've watched the original 5 parts. But if you haven't seen it, get out of here, run away, and then after you've seen it, come back and click through the rest of the video. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Cheryl.
Right. And actually, we didn't even tell everyone what it's called.
I said everything before us at the
Everything
beginning of the
before us.
video.
Oh, okay, I thought we forgot. But anyways, I'm really excited. I when I first saw it, I was really pumped about it. I was like, wow, this is amazing. But I really want to know what you think. So let me know
Okay.
what your thoughts were.
So this movie, man. First off, I was pleasantly surprised with watching this movie because when you first told me to check it out, I was kind of like, okay, I had no idea what I was getting into. You didn't tell me anything about like the tone or like what it was going to be. I think I assumed it was going to be a comedy because it was a YouTube movie, and I like had you told me a little bit about Wong Fu before, so I was like, okay, it's probably going to be a comedy, probably something like slice of life, whatever. And then it started, and when it's showing these couples, and it's talking about like relationships and everything, and then you realize it's like this company, and then they're starting to talk about like your EI score, your emotional intelligence score. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, this is like kind of like some type of sci-fi type thing. This is awesome. And then like literally like 30 seconds later, I was like, wait, no, this is like a Black Mirror episode. This is
Right.
terrifying. I am I am not about this whatsoever. This sounds like this is going to be awful. But it's great because the entire world is built on this premise, and it really is like if you've seen Black Mirror, it really feels like you are watching like one of those episodes. It is a world where your emotional intelligence score basically dictates everything that is like that can happen in your life, good or bad. It's kind of like a credit score, and it almost feels like it's kind of making fun of these things that are within our own world about how we judge like another human being's worth, but it's satirizing it in the form of your ability to hold a successful relationship with another human being. And yeah, it seems ridiculous to like look at it and be like, wait, well, why would we judge people like that? But then there are other things that from the outside looking in on our cultures, you could think that's kind of ridiculous, a ridiculous metric to judge any type of person, and to say that based off of this, they're worthy of like getting a house or not. But that's essentially like when you realize those parallels where it's like quite literally the EI score is basically a credit score, and it's more valuable than like a diploma or anything else like that. Like you can get a good job or you might not get a good job, all based on the fact that your EI score is high or low. And then the work and like the stories like delves into like these different things that I wasn't even thinking that they would touch on. Like they deal with fraud, like how people are trying to basically up their EI score in like creative ways, so fraudulent ways. They get into um, just even like when you're young and you like kind of get involved in a relationship, and then how that can like stop your chances from even like being able to like study abroad. And so I think at the like overall I really enjoyed it. And I think one of the things I liked about it more, what like we were talking, Cheryl, about how you like it when people die in movies. Well, for me, I like it when love stories don't necessarily have a happy ending that's all tied up and wrapped in a nice little bow. I like it when it's kind of it feels more real, where it's not about these characters actually needing one another, but finding a way to exist without relying on another person. So, like, there are two major stories that are happening at the same time. And at first, I thought we were seeing a flashback of the main character story, and then as it kept going, I was like, um, I can't. I'm not really sure if that's actually what I'm looking at, because it feels a little off. And then you see the moment where one of the characters in the presumed flashback is with one of the characters in the presumed present time, and they're in the same scene. And then it immediately shows you, oh, we're not looking at a flashback. We're looking at two relationships of different people in different age groups playing out at the same time. So like not so without like going like just talking about everything, just like I really appreciated the world that was building. I appreciated how this whole simple idea of like this EI score affecting your life, affecting your relationships was used to play into the world. And even though it's essentially it's a romantic story, it's a love story, but this element of the EI score basically changes everything, so it doesn't feel so simple, even though you're seeing a lot of the same type of ideas that you would normally see in a romantic story like this.
Yeah, I just thought you were gonna say that you liked it. Um,
It's your fault. You're the one who
I,
recommended it.
I don't think you need me for the show. But I'm
Okay,
glad
well,
you
what
feel
about
that
you?
way.
Yeah, all right, well, fine, fine. How about you tell me, like, what was it like? I don't even know how you. I mean, I know how you know about Wong Fu, but I don't know what made you find this movie or want to watch it in the first place, or if you've seen everything that they've done. Like, how'd you even find this?
I haven't seen everything that they've done, but I've been kind of a mild, or a casual fan of theirs since I found out about them like back in 2006. And I actually got to meet Phil and Wesley, and that was kind of cool because they were super
Nice.
nice. I didn't get to see the screening, but they were nice enough to come out and just say hi to all of us and like talk to us a little bit. And from that moment, because back in 2006, I already knew that I wanted to get into film and work on films and stuff. So it was just really awesome to like be able to meet them and stuff like that. So I've kind of casually followed what they've been cranking out over the years. And
Okay.
this actually, I didn't even notice it came out in 2015, but I didn't even see it until recently, I guess, 'cause I was perusing the internet looking for stuff to watch. but but I saw it. I found out it was their first movie, like first feature length, because they usually make short films, and they have a lot of short films out there, and they're usually cast Asian people, which I
Hmm.
really love because we never really get that. And it's not even just that they cast Asian people; it's that they cast Asian people in regular roles. And that's
Yeah.
what like I like love so much about this film is that it's not like 100% Asian, not like Crazy Rich
Mhm.
Asians or Jola Club and stuff like that. But the point is, the main characters are Asian, and
Right.
um, one of the things that I really loved and was really funny to me, and just kind of was like, I was just like, yeah, I was like a pow. Um, was when Ben went to the club with his white friend, his white best
Mhm.
friend, and he's like, ditch me, cause like this isn't about me. You go get the girl. And I was like, yeah, like usually in regular films that
Yep.
we see, the person that gets the girl, the main character is white, and his
Hmm.
sidekick is a person of color. And so it's
Very
just
true.
so amazing to see that role reversed, and like it just felt so good, and
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved that moment so much.
It actually reminds me. So I had a reaction to a moment actually right before that, and this was just for me, and I was laughing for myself. But they're in his office, and when they're talking about going out, and then Anna gets there, and they're talking to her, and his friend basically says, "Oh, the reason that he's here is because of me, so you're welcome."
Right.
And immediately in my mind, I thought, that's just like a white man claiming responsibility for the sex success of a person of color. How dare you? And I just personally found enjoyment in that. But I have to say, his friend surprised me. I actually really liked his friend. And with the end, I love the fact that it's his friend and his friend's wife that come together to give you hope that there's going to be a happy ending, because like things don't end on a dour note, but things aren't all like in a neat bow by the end of this movie. And so to see I'm sitting, because like I'm sitting there watching the credits, and I'm like, okay, wow, that was great, but like darn, like what's gonna happen next? And then they show the after credit scene, and you see his friend and his wife, and like they're talking about the bakery. And then at that moment I was like, they asked, they're like, hey, do you guys know how to run a bakery? And they're like, oh no, we have no idea, but we have someone in mind. And you're just like,
Yeah, there is
you guys
hope.
are awesome.
You can
Yeah.
beat the system.
Oh my god, it was one of the most satisfying moments in the entire movie for me. And and so speaking to another moment that just made me laugh, and it's just because of my own personal experiences, is when Randall is looking at it's in his short story where he's looking at one of the woman's EI scores, and like it's a teacher, and she's a person of color. She calls him up and leaves a message, and he goes and he looks up her EI score and sees that it's low, and it's like, no thank you. And immediately my first thought was, well, at least it's not racism.
That's so true. So true. I get, yeah, I mean, I was trying to like, I couldn't really quite put my finger on the what the like satire is exactly, because
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing really, there's not like one like particular thing that like controls every aspect of your life, like your relationships, your work, your school. You know, like it's kind of like one thing that is like overlaid on top, but I guess it kind of hits on everything. You know, your credit score,
Mm-hmm.
your race, your SATs. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if you watched the short film
I.
for
Mhm.
Randall's point of view.
Oh no,
Like
yeah.
this is literally an SAT score that has right or wrong answers on it for relationships. And I was really curious, so I paused it so I could read the questions, and I was like,
I did
there
too.
really is no right or wrong answer.
Mm-mm.
And I love how I forget her name. But I love how
Urska.
Urska,
Yeah.
I loved how she was like, but I need more information, and
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of how I feel when I'm taking the standardized tests. It's like, wait, but like, what about this? Why on earth will two trains collide? Right? But these are like these kind of standardized things are things that we get judged for on like from very early on.
Mhm.
Not just SATs, but like the school system itself. When you have to go through this funnel of everyone takes the same thing and you're supposed to go one way, but there's all these different routes in life that you can take to be successful, and we don't learn about that. We don't get that opportunity when we're growing up. So I feel like you know the satire here covers so many different things that like I can't really put one finger on like this is what it is. It's just so whole encompassing.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. It's kind of like a blanket over everything. But I think one of the biggest messages that I took away from it was that when you have any type of measurement system that basically can prevent somebody from getting a good job or getting a good house or even getting a good relationship, it basically it basically is going to create a world where people get desperate and desperate people are going to do desperate things, and that's the whole reason why I forget the main character, but the woman who was opening the bakery, um I forget her name, but the whole reason that she ends up opening, or the whole reason that she ends up in that fraud situation is because she felt backed into a wall, and there was no way that she was going to be able to get her EI score up after a bad relationship that she had with Ben. And so she did what she had to do with this other guy named Jeremy in order to try to up her score so that she could get a loan so she could open her bakery, which was her dream. And like, I think that the movie really touched on that, especially like in the first episode where you meet Ben and he's like, I can't get this job because of the bad relationship, the way things went. And then when they get into the office, like, and it's great. It's the first episode's handled so well, or I guess the beginning of the movie, the first 20 minutes. Um, it's handled so well because you see he's desperate. He calls her up. You know that something happened in their relationship that resulted in them no longer being together, and it's unspoken. They're there, and you think, okay, well, they're going to put this to bed. They haven't done it over a year. They need to. They're sitting down, and you find out that they filed separate termination reports. And then, like, even in this moment, it touches on perspective and how each person sees something differently. So she's like, we're not going with his report, are we? That's not what happened. And his first thing is, you were kissing a guy. And she's like, well, you were sleeping over at some other girl's house. And he's like, that girl I was sleeping over, whose house I was sleeping over, was my, like, one of my closest friends before we even started dating. And you put me out. And so, but then, like, their immediate, like, interests come out right then and there. He needs her to agree to his proposal or his termination record so that his score can go up and he can get this job. But for her, if she agrees to that, her score lowers, and then all of a sudden she loses the loan for her business. So their wants are in immediate conflict with each other right off the bat, right away. And so one of the things that I was surprised by was the fact that literally 5 minutes later, like, that situation is handled. Like, it's just taken care of. It's done. They talk. She takes him to, like, the bakery. They agree that it's 50-50, and then it's done. And so I was a little taken aback by that because I was like, oh well, that seemed like that was going to be like the primary conflict, like, or at least going to take you through halfway in the movie. What's the conflict going to be now? So even though it, like, kind of took me off guard, I didn't mind it that much because then the rest of the narrative was like what played out and it worked. So, but I did find that very surprising that that conflict was like almost immediately resolved, and they found like a middle ground and were able to go 50-50 and resulted in her getting her bakery and him getting the job that he wanted.
I think it's interesting that you thought that that was going to be the major conflict because I actually felt like they were getting through all the points of the relationship so quickly
Mm-hmm.
that it almost didn't matter what happened. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's how I felt. Like the way that they were giving us the information of their relationship was that it doesn't matter like
Mm-hmm.
what happened between them because what matters for them is to figure out how they can finish the termination so that it works in each other's favor, or
Right.
for their own favor. And so they were kind of like poking at each other again. And it didn't
Yeah.
it didn't really matter whose fault it was, but they were trying to make it the other person's fault so that it could benefit them.
Right. And I guess I was just surprised that they were able to agree with each other. Like whatever happened, and that, yeah, I don't think that I agree. I don't think that mattered, but I was just surprised that they were able to come to an agreement together to balance out their perspectives and just decide that, you know what, it like, let's just make it so that you can be helped and I don't get hurt, and actually making it 50-50 doesn't lower her score so much that she doesn't get the bakery, but ups his score enough that he can get the job. And
Right.
I think that's what surprised me. But like I said, not a problem overall, because then the rest of the narrative plays out in a very interesting way with the relationship, and primarily with the teenagers that are going off to college. Like that aspect was, I thought that was very well done. And can I just say, like, this movie broke me. This movie broke me so
It
hard when
hits
I was
you right
watching
here,
it.
right?
Oh my
It's
gosh.
kind of so close to home because it's so relatable.
It really is. And like, we were talking about, like, how it's not necessarily a happy ending, but it's not like a depressing ending either. These two, like, teenagers go their separate ways, but he makes a sacrifice so that she can go to London, but then he chooses to still move to San Francisco even though she's not there, because he's going to live his life for himself. And then, the other two, like the adult relationship storyline, like, you don't know if they're actually going to be together, but they have come to some type of agreement. They come to a conclusion with each other. They're going to start over, and then they walk out and the painting looks different. And it's it's great, but it's not like one of those endings where you're just like, yay, hooray, relationships, they work. It's one of those things where you're just like,
They do, sometimes they don't. But
exactly.
but it doesn't mean that life is over. Life continues on, and you start new journeys and you form new relationships and figure it out from there.
Yeah.
I do have
It's
to say that watching it, I kind of felt like, from the like watching the teenagers and the adults, it kind of felt like I was watching my relationship from like the beginning to the end, because I had similar a similar story for the teenagers and the adults all in one relationship. So I was like, I feel like I'm just watching the whole cycle of my relationship right there. Um, but
man.
yeah, I heard that the way they wrote it was they took personal um, occurrences from their lives, their past relationships, and just kind of picked from everyone's experiences and kind of put it all into one, which I think really worked because I think it was so relatable. Like I feel like it kind of covered every kind of relationship out there.
It does a very good job, and I didn't know about that little bit of information, but I think that with that information, what you just said, it actually explains a lot. It explains why a lot of it feels so real, because I found myself relating to, and I haven't had that many relationships, so, but I found myself relating to just the challenges of trying to have any type of relationship with anybody, and especially a romantic one. And like, even in this one moment, I love this scene where they're in the bakery and Seth and the woman who owns the bakery, and they're talking, and he's talking about his girlfriend and wanting to go see her, and she said, and he's like talking about how he loves her and everything else like that, and like she makes a comment along the lines of, yeah, you learn to control that, or that fades. And it's one of those things, it's such a real comment that I've heard other people who have been in relationships like for years say, or people who have gone through divorces, or just older people say. And it's like, you have this young person who's just starting this journey and they're excited, and you have this older person who has kind of been beaten down by it and just like, yeah, you get over it. but she realizes what she says, and she doesn't want to be like the one to be to tell him that it's not going to work, even though that's
Right.
exactly what happens for him in his relationship. But she doesn't want to be the one to just like kill that hope and that dream. But she knows how it can go, and she knows like how it turns out. But and he's on the other side, just seeing how like
The
glorious.
future is still out there, and like everything
Yeah,
is gonna be so perfect and magical. I mean,
right.
it was a little ironic though, because she was saying like, oh, it fades, and it, like, yes, it fades for him, but then for her it comes back to
It comes
life.
back. Exactly, and I think that's the other irony of that scene. And the other thing that they handle very well is the fact that they don't like talking about how you were saying like it's not anybody, it doesn't matter what happened, it doesn't matter whose fault it was. The fact that even with Seth's relationship, um, it feels like, I mean, it feels like he does a lot of things wrong, but when you're watching it, you can see both sides. You can see what his girlfriend is saying. You can see his perspective, and you understand it. And like, it's not like they try to paint him as like the perfect boyfriend. Like he does some things where you're like, bro, chill.
Calm down.
It's okay. Like you are literally working against yourself here. Um, but I love that message that man, so many good scenes. I love that scene where Seth and Ben are talking, and he's just like, "Do you love her? Yes. Well, then do something. Even if you're not with her, do something that is worthy of honoring that love and the memory of it." And so that's exactly what he does. And it doesn't seem like him making that decision just messes up his future, even though like this is a world where the implications are there. um, but the action of that he takes is very indicative of a person that is growing up and is willing. He learns his lesson. He learns the biggest lesson for that character, which is letting her go and live her own life. And maybe you
Maybe
come
she'll
back
come
around to
back.
each other. Yeah, you
Maybe
never
they
know.
grow up and they come back together like Ben and Sarah did. So
Yeah,
maybe that's their future that they're looking at.
yeah. You never know. So I can't praise this movie enough. And the last thing that I want to say, because we're starting to come up on time here, but like the last thing that I want to say is that the same thing that you were talking about how you like the fact that it was Asian characters that are being casted and like being focused on, and they're telling this story. The thing about it is that it's not even like uniquely an Asian experience or an Asian story. It is a story that anybody can relate to, and it just goes to prove that like a lot of these stories in Hollywood, you don't need white actors to portray those roles, because the fact is these are human stories. Like I can't think of, and maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I can't think of any moment in that story where the fact that they were Asian like what made a difference to how the story played out.
You could literally replace all of the characters with what anybody looks like: thin, fat, tall, short, old, young. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter. They like you don't need anyone to look a specific way to play those characters.
exactly.
Well,
And
maybe the
so
teenagers, but
maybe the teenagers, yes. For the age they have to be age appropriate. But the point is that these are human stories, and I think that's what people forget. And like that's why I want to see more of this. It's like there are stories where the ethnicity of the main characters matters because it can inform who they are and the lives that they live. But in stories like this, which are simply about love and relationships, like you can tell that story with anybody. They do not have to be white. They can be belong to any ethnic group. And so that's one of the reasons that I loved it, was even more because of the fact that it's further proof that this is possible. This can happen in mainstream Hollywood as well.
just need more opportunities and a bigger push for acceptance.
Yeah, exactly. So I've said everything that I have to say. I thank you so much for recommending it. I cannot express enough how surprised I was pleasantly to and the roller coaster of emotions that I was put on. So like I'm angry at you for that, and we'll have words after we get off this video. But yeah, like what else? I mean, you
I'm
got anything
glad
else
you
you gotta
liked
say?
it. No, I mean,
It's amazing.
I feel like we hit all like the big points and just I can't like you praise it anymore. I mean, it's just so well done. Like before we talked about how like it we didn't really want to talk about like the cinematography or the acting and stuff like that. We just wanted to talk about the story because that's what it was all about. And sometimes that's all you really need in a film is having a really good story, and that's exactly what this film was.
Yep, 100%. Oh man. Well, thank you.
Glad you liked it.
So, all right. Well, then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna call it here. So, thank you guys for watching. If you liked what you've seen, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And let us know what you guys think of the movie. Like, drop a comment below and tell us what your own relationship was with the film. Like, what inspired you? If you liked it, like, what didn't you like about it? But either way, even if you don't, thank you for coming through and checking us out. I've been Chris, and this has been.
Cheryl. See you next time.